Welcome back to the Ivy Unleashed podcast. Welcome to the first ever book club episode.
This is exciting. This makes so much sense. Why did it take till season 5 for us to do this? I don't know, but I'm glad we're doing it. And look at this book. It's so beautiful. It's so perfect for February. And it really is all about love. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the stuffy, oh my gosh, annoying love. It's like literally the love that can heal your life. So if you've missed this at all, and if you haven't read the book, it's totally fine because you will get a lot out of this episode. The book is by Louise. You Can Heal Your Life. We announced it a couple weeks ago, and we want to just kind of talk about our takeaways, our reflections in a way that you don't actually have to read the book. But if you did, it would probably be pretty interesting to hear our reflections and what we learned and how we're kind of moving forward with the lessons from this book.
Yeah. And if you did read the book, we want to know. So message us, respond in the comments to the videos we post throughout the week, because I feel like everyone takes something different away, and we're going to share our takeaways today. This is one of those books that I think kept haunting us. We kept hearing about it. We went to Jen Gottlieb's event, and her mom had given her this book when she was in a really dark time. She ripped a page out, put it on her fridge, and then she now has a book with Hay House publication, or through the publication, which is really cool. Our good friend Bree Johnson is the one who gave us this book. And so it was one of those of that little nudge from God, the universe, of like, you need this in your arsenal.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it should just be one of those that stays on the shelf. Like anytime someone's going through a tough time, they're in a health crisis, they're struggling through a divorce, or like not even anything that's a crisis. Like just, that they're struggling in any way. Mm-hmm. Or they're a parent, or they're about to get married. I mean, I feel like any season, really, this book is going to elevate your life, because when you love yourself, when you truly accept yourself, and we're going to talk through some of the exercises she has you do, because they're really powerful. When you're in that space, everything gets better. There's more ease. There's less tension. There's less pressure. Mm-hmm. I love a book that really also encourages you to put it into practice, because she gives affirmations you can say. She gives you exercises you can do, where a lot of them are looking in a mirror. So I'm curious how you felt about the mirror exercises.
Great question. I think like anyone listening, you hear that and you're like, ugh. And I still have yet to put it in practice. Like, I feel like this is something we've heard a lot with different coaches we worked with. Like Catherine really recommended that, if I'm remembering right. I hear it all the time. And I do a little bit of it. I will say, every time I go teach a class, I have like a little affirmation. I say to myself, I can, I will, I am, best class I've ever taught. You're born for this. And I place one hand over my heart, one hand over my stomach, and I just breathe, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, let's go. You've got this. So I kind of found my own way to do it, where there isn't as much resistance. Like, she recommends looking in the mirror, right? That the direct eye contact with yourself as you're saying these affirmations is what makes it so powerful. And she recommends saying, I love and accept you exactly as you are. I love and accept you exactly as you are. And so I haven't put it in practice yet, but I think I will.
When I was working with Catherine, I was struggling big time with my mental health for a lot of reasons. And she had me put into practice saying, I love you in a mirror over and over for 10 full minutes. We talked about this in an episode a long time ago, but it is so powerful, because what you're doing is you're speaking to your soul. When these words come out of your mouth, the biggest takeaway of this book is like how powerful words are, and that you need to say them, because you're saying words all day long. Why wouldn't you add in ones that are really affirming who you are, how you want to feel, and pouring some love into yourself? Because if you're judging yourself, then you're going to be judging other people, and your relationships are going to be shit, So it's like, if you start from that place. And so Catherine, I thought it was weird. I felt weird, but I did it before everybody was up down here in the bathroom, just stood in the mirror, and I literally put a timer on my phone for 10 minutes. And it felt like the first couple times, it felt like it was 2 hours. It felt so long. I could
How many times did you do it?
I did it every day for probably 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And the first couple of times I got emotional because it's so weird. It's because it's like foreign words because you don't say them to yourself, but you need that love. And when you are at a place of peace, there's love. If you want your body to be in a place of peace, you need to love yourself. Mm-hmm. And we just had on Dr. Yasmin Sad, and she has such a loving way of taking the inner critic and understanding it's just information, right? Mm-hmm. And how can we love ourselves through it and be gentle with ourselves? There's no need for this pressure, tension, pushing, like all of these things that we think elevates us, right? Because it did serve us maybe in an experience, or we were taught that, or we've seen it in sports or whatever. But this book is explaining that chronically, that will make you ill, and even has an entire index.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Of ailments.
I think we should get into that because that was one of my biggest takeaways. Is this book is about loving yourself, affirmations, like really mental health support. But then the last section of the book is all physical ailments and the belief that is causing those physical ailments. So she believes that all disease really starts with how we're speaking to ourselves, how we're thinking, our beliefs. So a few that stood out to me just based on, kind of your girl and her gut health symptoms. So let's start there. I'm going to read this. This is bananas. So when she says, when there are stomach problems, it usually means we don't know how to assimilate the new experience. We are afraid. What does that mean? So I'm like, okay, when did this begin? I'm living in Florida. I'm about to graduate. Then I start my own business. Shit's scary as hell. Like, am I just shaken to the bones, afraid of every moment of my life? And so I'm just chronically in pain?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because think about it. It was a new place, a newish relationship at the time, new internship, new stage of life, ending college and starting a career.
Yeah.
And then moving back here. And then with entrepreneurship, it's always new. It's new all the time.
Yep. So you pair that with another symptom I dealt with, constipation. And I know a lot of people listening. Even if constipated people are not actually stingy, they usually do not trust that there will ever be enough. Right? So that lack. Mm-hmm. There's never enough. I'm not going to be okay. Survival mode. It really gets you thinking of like, okay, what are those deep ingrained fears that I have?
Well, one that, this is so funny. So in my family, a lot of times Blair will get the comment to her, the feedback to her, Blair, you're being very stubborn. That's like what is like her, like one of her MOs is like she has a way she thinks things need to go, and that's what like, and when she's really been like that lately. I just think it's part of like being the third child or whatever. But as I'm reading these ailments, it says that a lot of times when your neck is stiff, it's like you're really stubborn and you're not being very flexible about like a new path or a new way of doing things. And she has had neck issues for like the last week. Like her neck has been super tight and she's been complaining about it. And I'm like, what are the odds that, and just all of these ailments, it's so interesting to think about. And it has like even Alzheimer's, it has like, it's pages of these ailments and like maybe a new belief you could try and adapt to see if that could help with a disease or an issue you're having.
She talks about cancer. If cancer is involved, then there's also deep resentment. And she talks about the feeling of guilt. Here's a good one with back pain. Do you feel burnt out? Are your finances in a mess? Do you worry about them excessively? Then maybe your lower back may be bothering you. The lack of money or the fear of money will do it. The amount you have has nothing to do with it. It's like when your body is in this chronic state of fight or flight, like of course it's going to manifest itself as symptoms. Another big one for everyone listening was weight. And as health coaches, that's something I talk about every day with clients. This is her take on it. Loving and approving of yourself, trusting in the process of life, feeling safe because you know the power of your own mind makes the best diet. Go on a diet from negative thoughts and your weight will take care of itself. Like she says, and it's hard for me to even say this, but being fat is really just, you have negative thoughts, you don't love yourself.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on
that? And
that?
I think too, you mentioned safety, and I think that's a big part. A lot of people that have been abused are overweight, especially if it's a sexual abuse situation, because it has to do with their body, right? And a good protective mechanism is to put on weight so that you're not desirable and you feel protected and you feel like no one will want me or try to abuse me again. And a lot of it's subconscious too. It's not even like people are aware of this. But I've read a lot about it, just like you said, we talk with a lot of people that have weight issues and they want to work on their weight. And every time we do that, we end up talking about their mental health. And that's where the change comes, right? It's worthiness. It's loving yourself. It's understanding that it's not about other people. It's about taking up the space that you deserve and the time that you deserve and the priority that you deserve, because the way that you were treated didn't reflect that. So you're still kind of living in that, your reflection of that mirror, right? Instead of the new one we're trying to put in front of you. And that takes practice. And I love that these are legit practices to do, and it feels weird. It does, but it is a new way and a new idea. And if what you're doing isn't working, then we've got to try something different. So why not something that elevates how you feel internally?
And I think it's not just, the book, it's like I said earlier, there's so much depth to it. It's not just body image, it's finances, it's relationships. It's like everything that makes someone feel at peace. Here's your ticket on how to do it. Every chapter is an affirmation you can read. It's about decoding your thoughts.
Yeah. And I just to elaborate on that, what I really loved, what she talked about, is cleaning out your mental garbage. So she said on page 26, do you dig into yesterday's garbage to create tonight's meal? And so it's about letting go of the past, right? Like you're bringing that stuff into your new relationship, right? And a lot of it, like I said, is subconscious. You don't realize you're doing it. I do it a lot in with trust with my husband, like trusting him to make sure like he's got the best intentions, right? And it's like, he's not ever trying to hurt me. Like he is here. He loves me. He's taking care of me, right? But I bring in like trust issues from before into this relationship. We all do it in different ways, right? But she mentioned looking at the problem in your life and asking. So something that you have over and over, whether it's weight or it's money issues or it's problems at work, whatever the problem is, you look at that problem in your life and you ask, what kind of thoughts am I having to create this? So what is it? I was exploring my relationship with money when I was reading this, because I'm like, how do I how am I using my past, or what thoughts am I having in my relationship with money that's affecting me now that doesn't need to? And something that I thought about was like, a big thing of mine is like, I think you need to work hard to get your money, right? Or you need to work hard to get the reward. You run the marathon to get the medal, right? And in my life, that's what I've been celebrated for. I'm a hard worker. I have had a lot of success by working hard, right? And so if you have debt, you got to keep working hard, right? It's like, it keeps that possible for me, that I'll have to keep working hard, and I'll keep doing what I've always done or whatever. And so it's just like something like that to think about. If you have something that's been persistent with you, if it's tricky friendships or it's, sabotaging your eating habits, what is that doing? Like, and what thoughts are you having that's kind of keeping you in that cycle?
Yeah.
And she talks you through ways to break. Like, she has beliefs that a lot of people have, and then she has new affirmations to say. So it's really nice. It's like she takes them and then she gives you the answer. So it's not like you have to try and figure out this puzzle on your own.
Yeah. A big takeaway from me was, she says, when problems arise and you're trying to figure it out, the answer isn't something that you have to do. It's something that you have to know. So like, this problem is teaching you something that keeps persisting. What is this teaching me? Okay, it's teaching me that I don't have to work harder, that by me believing I have to work harder, I'm putting myself in pain and I'm creating more debt, because that's the belief that I'm not going to be okay if I'm not working hard.
So you keep working hard.
Yeah. So we got to work less, girl. That's what I'm hearing you say. No, but it is interesting. It's like that. I think that in both of us is so innate of do, produce more. And it's like, how can we work smarter and not harder, and protecting your peace and your time and charging what you're worth. Like, she talks a lot about self-worth and how do you express your lack of self-worth. And she has a story about this guy who everyone wants his paintings and they're so beautiful, but he's not charging enough. And so he's constantly broke. Mm-hmm. And how wealthy people, like, they want to pay a lot of money for things because that's how they show their value. And people have the money to pay for things. There's just this belief we have that we're not worth charging that much. Mm-hmm. And like, why is that?
Or saying yes to all of the things for everybody else instead of like something you want to say yes to. I think of that too, like aside from money, that when you're feeling burnt out and you're trying to figure out the answers, like, why am I always so tired? It's like, what are you saying yes to all of the time that you don't really want to? What's depleting you? Like, what's the list of things that are your energy givers? We did an episode on this and figuring out what yours are, because we say yes to so many things because it comes at us and it's hard to say no.
And why do we feel the need to say yes? Mm-hmm. Like, because it's like, I realize that I'm saying yes. And I know a lot of people listening too. They're like, it's things we just have to do. And Louise Hayes talks a lot about the shoulds. And which makes you think, like, instead of saying should, she says swap it out with could. Because then it's a choice. Yeah. Do I want to? And if you played with that for even a week of saying no more, being really intentional with your yeses, eliminating should, like, I feel like that's such a good place to start because you're opening up more space for you and to be able to sit and have time for what she recommends, meditation, 5 minutes, and just asking yourself, like, what is it I need to know? I think that's such a powerful question to reflect on. You just sit in silence and ask yourself, what is it I need to know? And the answer will always come because your brain's job is to answer the questions you give it.
Or it's outside of you and it takes less pressure off you if you believe in God and Jesus or whatever you believe in. Like, for me, it's not on me to know it. I'm like asking a higher source what I need to know. So it's almost like it takes the pressure off me of like, what am I trying to know? You know, it's like, I just sit and I listen. And something the book talked about that I love so much is this should thing. When it comes to like thinking of what you should or what people have said you should be doing, there's a lot of resentment that comes from that, and anger that's a lot of times suppressed because we're pissed that our parents made us feel like we needed to be a doctor, or, you're mad that your siblings treated you a certain way, or you didn't get into college, or you got that injury, or whatever happened. Like, you're angry about the circumstance for so long, but you've never expressed it. That it gets lodged in your body, and like, you're not going to walk around angry all the time, but you are. There's this resentment in you that you're holding. And she talks about like maybe where you hold it and then how that can create a migraine, or that can create an ulcer, or that can create foot pain, or like wherever it is.
Yeah. Let me read this. She says, when you are angry, hold your middle finger and watch the anger dissolve. Hold the right finger if your anger is at a man, and the left is if it is a woman. Like, what?
I know. It gets a little like, whoa, it can't hurt to try it.
Here's what I've learned. The weirder of the steps you take, the better results you have. Like, if you can get lost in the woo-woo and just be like, you know what? I'm open to trying. Because when you're at a point where you have nothing to lose, I think that's when the magic happens, because you're open to doing things you wouldn't have done before. And if you're not doing things you wouldn't have done before, you're going to be stuck in the same place.
Exactly. Right? And it's all like, even if it's a woo-woo thing that maybe doesn't work, it's the intention of what you're trying to do. I'm trying to heal my relationship with this person I have resentment with. I'm trying to feel better in my body. So if she says, pinch your left armpit, I'm pinching it. Like, whatever it is, it's like, okay, it might work, it might not, but the whole intention is that I'm trying to fix this so that I'm not stuck in the same place. And then it's pouring into yourself. It's the intention, I want to get better. It's the intention, I want to be at peace, and if you're showing the universe, you're showing God, you're showing yourself, I'm taking time to do this weird thing in hopes of the higher purpose. Then it's like God, universe knows this is her higher, this is really what she's trying to do. Then let's help this sister out.
Yeah. And I think about you're matching the vibration of where you're at to get what you want. Right. So like I think about this self-worth and these little upgrades you're making. Like we just read Get Rich Lucky Bitch, which such a good book. We should do a damn book club on that now that I'm thinking about it. But she talks about like these little upgrades that you make. And for me, it's like I'm showing that I'm worth more by taking the time to do these things, doing things that make me happy, make me excited. So I want to know from you, like what are some ways right now or after reading this book that you are telling yourself I am worthy, like through your actions? Like, is it, we've talked about like taking the time to get ready, or I'm just curious what little ways when you think about self-worth.
Well, for me, a big part of it, like it has to go back to morning because it's the only time I get alone all day, right? Like people come and go out of my house nonstop. And getting myself to bed and expressing to my family, like this is really important for me. So like expressing to the people around me, like also to help me be accountable of getting in bed and getting up early, because that time is where I pour into myself. But from this book, I took a couple pictures of some affirmations that I want to say regularly, because just the way she weaves in love and kindness and the world and the certain theme, because in each chapter is a different theme. One was like about abundance and one was about healing or body or, you know, whatever. So I want to start saying affirmations more.
Okay.
And from that Get Rich Lucky Bitch book, I want to write down my goals twice a day, like she said too, because I feel like ending my day, and this book, in Louise Hay's book, she talked a lot about the bedtime, like don't watch the news and all of this terrible stuff right before you go to sleep, because your brain is, you're trying to up-level your thoughts. Yeah. So before you're asleep and there's a lot going on up here right before bed, like pouring in what you want and positivity and soothing music or whatever it might be. So I want to focus on like bedtime and then more affirmations throughout the day to kind of help with negative self-talk and raising the vibe. How about you?
I love that. So many things. I think the biggest one is continuing guarding my time. Like since being intentional with, I don't work before 9, I don't work after 6, and I really want my weekends for me. I can get so much more done in the day, and I don't feel like I'm giving from an empty cup. I'm excited about the work I'm doing because I know I have that balance. Like as an entrepreneur, it can get really foggy and those lines can get blurred really, really fast. And I feel oh my gosh, I should, and I should be doing this. Like the shoulds just haunt the shit out of me. Like it's ridiculous. And I feel like before I have kids, God willing, I want to get this under control. And I need to trust that charging more, believing the money will come, and focusing on being in a peaceful state. That has to be where my energy goes. And I think it would be interesting to do an inventory on like, hey, here's how I'm spending my days. Here are all the tasks. What am I saying yes to that I really don't want to do this? And do I have to do this? Because I feel like there's so many things within our day that we don't necessarily have to do, but there's some little devil on the shoulder that's like, oh, do that, do that, do that. And it's like, no, shit, what do I want to do? So that's my answer.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, time is important. It's important to make sure what you're putting in it does elevate you. Like you said, there's some things you need to do that are part of life, but then it's also like, is it? Is it necessary? A lot of people aren't doing this thing all over the planet and they're just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to think too, what beliefs stem from childhood, because I think almost all of them do. And Louise Hayes, she has a big part where she believes that you choose her parents. What were your thoughts on that?
See, that to me, I don't get that. Like I've heard like Christina Deering say that too. And I don't believe that. It's like, so what she's saying is like, you choose your parents based on the lesson you need to learn. And so I chose my parents because the lesson that I needed to learn is what they taught me or whatever. Yeah. I feel like God like put me with my parents. So that always trips me out when I hear that. I don't know. What did you think about it?
Well, what I found interesting, okay, I think if you believe you have multiple lives, then that makes sense because you're coming back like a different person, right? Or a different version of yourself. I don't even know I got to do more research on that, to be honest, how that works. Like that's something that the yogis believe. But Louise Hayes, she also talks about God.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about coming back in another life, I don't think about God. So it's interesting. I would like to talk to myself up in space before I was born. What were you thinking? No, I'm just teasing.
Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom. She gets it. It shows that everyone has different viewpoints and beliefs, and not every book you have to agree with every point. Like there can be so much value in a book, and there can be one thing that you're like, but you can still get a lot of value. For example, there's this book, and it's written by this very popular yogi. He has a whole line of yoga, and very, very famous, very successful. Well, it turns out he's a wife beater, and I did not know that. And I read a quote from the book. I don't know if I've told you this. No. I read a quote from the book as an intention for class last week or the week before, and I had some lady after class tell me, I don't think he did this intentionally, but just so you know, she was from the same city as him, knew the kids, knew the wife.
What?
It was this whole ordeal. And I'm like, I promise if I would have known that, I probably would not have read the quote. But we had a really interesting conversation about how the words can be life-changing, but the person writing the words can still be a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. You can separate the two.
Yeah.
So I'm still reading this book, and there's so many good nuggets from it. And I'm trying to view it as okay, I don't have to agree with the kind of human he is, but I can still take away some of the things he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like Dr. Seuss, He's got some good work.
Yeah.
Do we really like him? I don't know.
Well, I hope we don't find out anything bad about Louise Hay, but she had a rough life. She talked about the end of the book. Mm-hmm. She didn't talk about really her story at all till the very end of the book. And then it broke my heart. She's been through so much, which then I feel like gave her more credibility that she's healed through abuse and neglect and tricky relationships and all kinds of things. And so, I wanted to read one of her affirmations because they're throughout the whole book, just to give you a taste of something. Because I feel like with affirmations, I want examples. Yeah. I want you to tell me, and then I'll try it, and then I'll adapt it how I want. This was a super long affirmation, so I'll just read the very end of it, just to give you a taste of what they sound like. So at the end of 100, it's around 100, page 105. There's an affirmation, and they all have a cute heart. It says, I love myself, therefore I behave and think in a loving way to all people, for I know that which I give out returns to me multiplied. I only attract loving people in my world, for they are a mirror of what I am. I love myself, therefore I forgive and totally release the past and all past experiences, and I am free. Mm-hmm. I love myself, therefore I live totally in the now, experiencing each moment as good and knowing that my future is bright and joyous and secure. For I am a beloved child of the universe, and the universe lovingly takes care of me now and forevermore. All is well in my world. Mm. And this is just part of a really long one, but it just shows the depth and, these are things you can say to yourself. It can't hurt to feel this love and to know you're trying to attract more love in your life and feel more at peace and feel more like yourself and accepted, acceptance of others. You need to accept yourself, all of you, and the mistakes you make and all of it. And it's not easy. And I think it's an ongoing practice, but I really feel like Louise Hay did a good job of helping us practice. If anything I took from this book is okay, this is a tool for me to come back to and try another exercise, or when I'm feeling really down on myself, having this for those tough days.
Yeah. Even just reading the affirmation, one affirmation a day, or having it available to quick pick up, it immediately shifts the state you're in. Mm-hmm. If you slow down to read, to actually feel the words on the page, it's oh, okay. I'm okay. It's going to be okay. You get out of that fight or flight nervous system that so many of us are in. And I don't think we realize until we take the time to build a practice around it of how easy it really is to switch out of that.
Yeah, she talks a lot about like you are in control of your thoughts. Like this is something you can change. You can change a thought, you can change a belief, and that's what's running the world. That's what's happening. Those are all of your circumstances, all of them. And so she's saying if you want it to shift, you can right now. And like you don't have to blame anybody else. You don't need to live in misery anymore. And she talks about like laughing and having fun, not taking everything so seriously. Like that's how you can raise your vibe. Like laugh at yourself, laugh with other people.
Yeah, she talks about that guy who wrote a book about how he cured cancer or some life-threatening disease by laughing. And I just talked to a client yesterday, and the goal he set was to laugh more. He's like, I need to make feeling good, not making good food choices, not exercising, but like actually in my bones, like laughing and enjoying life a priority. I'm like, yes, like this is so good. And I find myself like at night, if I'm scrolling, I get stuck on one video on Instagram, and then the algorithm picks up real quick, and I'm just giggling, and nothing feels better than that. It's like an oxytocin hit. So if these affirmations are woo-woo for you, if you're like, I don't know if I can look in the mirror, like what if you just started with laughing, like making that a habit? I think so much would change. Just the way you show up in the world when you're happy, you're vibrant, you're radiant. Let's just laugh some more.
And kids help. You know, if you don't have kids, some of those reels and TikToks of kids are just like, I feel like I send back and forth my cousin Lindsay because she just says they make her day to get like funny kid videos. Just kids, they have no filter. They're ready to laugh at any second. Like it's just constant laughter once my kids get home. And so I feel like if you don't have any funny friends, talk to your kids or watch some like just what comes out of their mouth is so funny. I love it.
Well, we would rate this book. I would give it a 5 out of 5 stars. What would you give it?
I would definitely give it a 5 out of 5 too. And this is a life-changing book.
Yeah. What do you think we should make our next book? Is there one you've been dying to read? Let me pull up my book list. I think it would be fun for the listeners to hear how we come to our next book, because I've got a million on my list. What are you feeling like you really need in life right now?
I'm really feeling. I'm thinking about our listeners, and I'm thinking about a new book that's out.
Oh,
that we just got. And I think we should have a return guest to talk about their book.
Terry.
I think we should read Stop People Pleasing.
Yes.
And have Haley McGee on to talk about her book. Because her episode on people pleasing, I think it's episode 144, gets listened to every day. Yes. And she does such a great job of really like she was a people pleaser or like still struggles with people pleasing. And then she's created a book now. So I think to have her back on to talk about it would be really special. She has said yes. We never know for sure. You know, this is a little preemptive, I guess. But to talk through the book with Haley, I think would be really special for a book club. Unless we want to just stick to books without the author on. I mean, up to you.
Well, I think we do both. Because also Terry Cole reading her new book. So that'll be fun. So Haley and Terry are coming up. Let's start with Haley. And, you know, when I said earlier, my goal to think about what am I saying yes to that I really don't want to. That's people pleasing at its core. So I like this idea. And I think everyone listening should get the book too. Listen to it before the episode because you just have so many takeaways. You can obviously listen without reading. I think it just makes for a better experience. You're also supporting an author who is incredible, doing the Lord's work. You are improving your mental health. I saw this thing on Instagram. Who knows if it's real or not, but it was like your stress is decreased by 68% when you read. Isn't that crazy?
It makes sense. So you're calm, you're relaxing. You're usually like cuddled up with a nice blankie or in the sun.
You're lost in a story or you're thinking about, you know, improving your life, excited about planning steps you can take. And I think everyone can benefit from stopping people pleasing.
Yeah. So as you can see from book club, you don't have to read the book, or you can read the book. And if you did and you're like, wow, they didn't even talk about this part of the book, let us know, because I mean, we both had a lot of notes from it we probably didn't get to, and we would love to talk with you about it too. Okay, so just a reminder, the next book club book is Stop People Pleasing by Haley McGee. It's in her Amazon bookstore. We will link that too. And her episode, we're aiming to air it March 18th. Sometimes technology and schedule things happen. So try to have it read by March 18th.
Yes. And last but not least, your piece of gold for today's episode. Such a good quote. Simple. Louise Hay says, there's only one thing I ever work on, and that is loving thyself.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.